Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Now that we've given everyone about a minute and everyone has started filtering in, we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's meeting. So, as you all know, during tonight's meeting, we're officially going to be reviewing over the 2025-2026 CKI budget. Alongside me on this call tonight are both Vice President Neha Pasupuletti as well as the rest of the KI staff, who will be here alongside all of us to help answer any questions that you guys pose about our budget. As a reminder, during the registration process, you guys have the opportunity to pre-submit questions, which will be prioritized and answered first on tonight's call. However, as we're proceeding through the budget, if you happen to have any additional questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function and send those to us. Although we may not be able to get to all of the questions since we're capped at 1 hour for tonight, a sheet with all of the questions as well as their associated answers will be provided to all of tonight's attendees and registrants at the conclusion of tonight's call. Additionally, for anyone that isn't able to attend tonight, a recording of this call will also be made separately available on our official Circle K Instagram YouTube channel as well. Before we get started, the first thing that we're going to do is review over the budget for this service year. To review over the budget as we're going through it, please see the budget on the CKI website. The link is going to be dropped in the chat by either Neha or staff. I'll give them a second to get that up. And then once that once that link is dropped in the chat, Josh, would you mind starting screen share for our official budget? Perfect. So Josh has just gone ahead and dropped the link to our official 2025-26 CKI budget in the chat box. Feel free to either follow along through opening up that file on your own device or by following separately through our screen share as well. Okay, perfect. So as you guys can now see on the screen, this is the official CKI budget as it was approved at the original ahead of the service year. For a little bit of context, this budget was created back in January 2025 and was conditionally approved by the Kiwanis International Board at their April 2025 board meeting, with full approval then occurring at their June 2025 Kiwanis International Board meeting. This budget was prepared in collaboration by both CKI as well as KI staff based on the trends of our organization, as well as historical budget information, including both income and expenditures. As a reminder, the actuals that are captured in this budget are as of August 2025, meaning that the final end of fiscal year totals are not fully represented just yet. At the moment, Kiwanis is still in the middle of its annual fiscal audit, so the final end of year numbers are not available just yet. With this in mind, for the purpose of tonight's meeting, we're going to be primarily focused on the budget numbers, not the actuals that are highlighted in this document. So, as you guys can see on this board, on the screen right now, our 2025 to 26 CKI budget is currently split into two primary sections, one being income, the other being expenses. With that, I'm just basically going to go line by line and help kind of break down what we can see between the 2025 budget as well as the 2026 budget, as well as the difference between the two. First, in terms of income, you can see that for SLP dues and fees, we can see an increase between 2025 to 26. In 2025, we estimated a budget of $187,360 for income. And for 2026, we see a new estimated number of $230,400, marking a $43,000 increase in our expected income from dues and fees for the service year. This is primarily attributed back to the membership dues increase, as well as an increase in the amount of projected members that we're using for this year as well. Then, for meeting and registration fees, we can see an increase from 2025 to 26 from $54,350 US to $59,825, marking a $5,475 increase in that expected income as well. Then for sponsorship fees, previously in 2025, this was allocated at 3,000 US dollars, which is no longer included as a part of our 2026 budget, marking a decrease of $3,000. Then for contributions and donations, we budgeted an estimated $4,500 last year, compared to a budgeted 2,500 US dollars this year, marking a 2,000 US dollar decrease. Then from grant income, this amount has been kept constant at 8,250 US dollars across both years, meaning no change. And then finally, the Kiwanis management fee income and subsidy has maintained at 191,623 US dollars. So all of these items together help give us a total income in 2025 budgeted out to be $449,083 compared to this year's $492,598. Overall, this indicates that from a budget perspective, we're projecting our income for CKI to be increased by a total of $43,515 for this annual fiscal year. With that in mind, if you guys have any questions about the income part of our budget, I'd encourage you guys to start inputting those questions in the chat or in the Q&A function now. From there, Neha in the background, along with staff, will begin filtering through the questions and basically trying to answer them as we see fit for the later Q&A component. Now moving on to the expenses part of our budget. Similar to before, I'm basically just going to go line by line and break down what was in our 2025 budget and now what's currently in our 2026 budget, as well as the difference between the two. First, in terms of CKI support, our expected expenditures for this year have increased by $14,497. Previously in 2025, this amount was expected to be 376,733 US dollars. And for this year, that amount has subsequently increased to 391,230 US dollars, marking a $14,497 increase. Then for CKI governance, we can see that the original allocated amount in 2025 was 37,770 US dollars, compared to for now, 2026, 32,765 US dollars, marking a decrease in expenditures by 5,005 US dollars. Then, in terms of Circle K membership, we can see an estimated expenditure in 2025 of 148,745 US dollars. And then for this service or this fiscal year, that amount has since decreased to $111,000. 1,000. Oh, sorry, 111,447 US dollars. This amount has has decreased by $37,298. Then for Circle K convention, that amount was originally allocated out to be $69,700 and has since decreased for this year to $67,700, marking a $2,000 decrease. Then GATSI was originally allocated at $19,325 US dollars, which then subsequently increased to $19,710, a $385 US dollar increase. Then for leadership and education initiatives, that amount has decreased from $16,650 in 2025 to $12,610 for 2026, marking a $4,040 decrease. Overall, in terms of expenses, our original budgeted expenses for this fiscal year decreased from a total of $668,923 to $635,462 US dollars, marking a $33,461 decrease in our expenditures. And as a reminder, this is the amount that we were expecting and budgeting at the very, very start of the service year. For context, going in a little bit more, basically in October 2025, as a lot of you guys know, CKI ended up receiving directions from the Kiwanis International Board to facilitate an additional 92,000 US dollars in reductions to the formerly approved budget. These additional cuts, while not captured in the original 2025 to 26 budget file, have been separately approved by the Kiwanis International Board as of last week. To facilitate conversation and answer your questions on those components, We will also go through and do all of that as well. We will go, like, obviously, now that we've gone through the original budget, now is also a really good time for you guys to leave any questions that you guys have, whether it be about the income or about the expenses below as well. For a little bit of
Jonathan,
back, yes.
I'm gonna pause you for just one second here before we go on to those cuts. I think it's important for everybody. Most of you hopefully know that I'm looking at a separate screen here. That's why I'm probably not looking right at y'all here. I'm trying to juggle a lot of stuff on the back end for the windows, but just to go through a few things here because you probably have some questions about the differences. So you have that CNA CKI support G&A that increased. That is really reflective of payroll taxes and payroll increases. So you can see, I mean, that's that's pretty common for those types of lines. And you'll see on the next section that that's actually not going to be an increase at all. CKI governance, that deduction, or I guess decrease, it would be a better word for that, is due to board reduction and therefore lower expenses for travel. That was the $5,000 deduction there. On that CKI membership, I know that there was a question later on that we'll get to. Somebody had asked one, why is that cut so much? So that's really from cutting, it's almost exclusively from the removal of funding for the alumni platform staff. So that the funding for that has been moved to other budgets. And so that is a huge component there. And then this is because this last one, that reduction there is due to next up lodging and travel costs being effectively cut in half. I can't necessarily speak to why that was. I'm guessing that it was a historic it's just getting a more better alignment with historic numbers. We just
Yes.
didn't spend that much money, so it was essentially cut in half. So I just wanted to say those things in terms of why those you're seeing those changes there. Okay, take it away, Jonathan. Sorry to interrupt.
Nope, you're so good. Thank you so much for filling in for me, Josh. I really appreciate it. So with that, now that we've gone through both, or actually, I guess to go over the very last part of this budget, the surplus and deficit before investment income for 2025 was allocated out to be 219,840 US dollars. And then for 2026, this amount was updated to be $142,864, marking a $76,976 decrease in the deficit before the investment income. And then overall, those total, that is indicated in the line 48 as well, which indicates our estimated deficit for each of the years. Basically, alongside the changes that were approved by the Kiwanis International Board, we were directed to explicitly reduce that number, which is why we're now going to transition into some of the cuts that ended up happening for this service here as well. Like I mentioned earlier, before Josh went ahead and did the in-depth breakdown, these additional cuts were not originally captured in the 2025 to 26 budget file, and they were separately approved by the Kiwanis International Board. Now that we've gone through and looked at the original budget, we're going to be now looking through the specific budget reductions as well as the specific adjustments that were made by by our team. So Josh has that pulled up here now. So now I'm basically going to go through and explain a little bit more about each of these particular line items and why they were changed within our budget. To preface all of this, I know you guys likely have a lot of questions about these changes, whether it's in terms of why they were made or the implications that these may have on our CKI membership. Since we do have this call tonight, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to submit any of those questions. This is a really good opportunity for us to have those difficult conversations and to also answer any points of confusion that you may have. I'll be honest, like even for me and Neha's end, we definitely had our fair share of questions as well whenever we were given the updated numbers. So please feel free to ask any questions that you guys have. With that, let's go ahead and start going through the budget changes for this year. For all governors as well as district administrators, a copy of the official changes were submitted or were sent out to your emails on Friday evening. But like I said, we're going to be going through line by line now to go through those as well. So The first savings and cuts from the existing 2025 to 26 budget was allocated to the staffing category. And the cuts in this category came out to a total of 59,186 US dollars. In particular, to make this change possible, the CKI specialist, which in this case is Sam, will be transitioning to working only 3 days a week, and other support staff will also be transferred to other club lines. These cuts will also add additional savings in the 2026 to 27 fiscal year, when the management fee will subsequently also be reduced as well. As a compromise for this, is remaining 100% allocated to CKI and will continue being a full-time staff member for our organization as well. Then for number two, in terms of GLC updates, there has been a 2,000 US dollar cut to our original approved budget. And what this basically means is that newly developed CKI specific global leadership certificate courses will be eliminated. While there will not be any change to the existing global leadership certificate program and current courses will continue to remain available, this basically means that there will no longer be money allocated to help create new content for this category. Number three is staff district visits, which has been cut in the amount of 1,130 US dollars. Basically, this was a line item that we originally had in our CKI budget, where staff in particular had the option, had the potential chance to go to districts to visit them for things like our decon, similar to our trustee visits. However, staff had not really used this line item to begin with over the past few years to help reduce CKI expenses. And so for this service year, this amount has been fully eliminated from the budget. Then from there, next is CKI district visits, and this one applies in particular to the CKI International Board. This line item comes out to a cut of 4,970 US dollars, and basically official CKI district visits by international trustees and the international vice president or myself, the international president, are no longer going to be paid by CKI. While visits may still occur, this will be dependent on whether or not districts are able to opt into paying the full cost of trustee travels as well as accommodations. Additionally, while official visits in this regard will no longer be occurring, unofficial visits between districts and trustees are able to occur separately as well, as long as they organize everything externally. Then the next line item that we had changed was labeled promo other in the amount of 7,500 US dollars. And basically, this was funding for CKI to include any type of catch-all promotion. And that has been similarly eliminated from the budget as well. Then shipping in the amount of 2,750 US dollars, which was previously used for mailings and giveaways, has been reduced by an amount of by a total of 50%. The remaining funds will continue to be utilized for member incentives and chartering packets, but the overall shipping expenses has been reduced in half. Lastly, GATSI, or the Governor's Administrators Training Conference, has been cut in the amount of $18,500. In this regard, governor training will still occur in person in Indianapolis, Indiana, but districts will now be responsible for covering the full cost of travel and accommodations. CKI will continue to provide space and training materials and will cover the costs associated with flight and accommodations for the student leaders hosting the event, typically including the CKI president as well as the CKI vice president, while all other expenses will now fall on districts. With this in mind, this totals up to $96,036 US dollars in reductions to our existing 2025 to 26 budget. Like I said, this will not be reflected in the official budget that's posted on our website, but will be posted separately as a document to indicate these changes. With this in mind, that basically goes through both our original budget for this service or for this fiscal year, as well as the associated reductions that have been approved and sent out to the organization as of last week. Okay, so with this in mind, we're now ready to go ahead and start answering some of your pre-submitted questions, and we can go ahead and get started with that. Before we do so, once again, as a reminder, we do have the Q&A function open on the Zoom call. So please feel free to go through and enter any questions that you have through there as well. And following that, Vice President Neha will begin compiling all of the questions while staff in the background will help us kind of go through and compile any relevant information from their end to help answer all of this. Okay, Now I'm going to begin answering some of the pre-submitted questions that were submitted by governors or DAs or other registrants during their registration process. So the first question from the New Jersey district in particular asks, what measures have been taken in this year's budget to ensure CKI members will still have a great experience despite these cuts? From our perspective, the primary incentives for membership, including things like swag, event gift cards, icon scholarships, all of these things do remain in our budget for this service year. For us, we really knew, especially given the fact that we've just experienced 3 consecutive years of dues increase, which we're still in the middle of, we knew it was really, really important for us to still have those tangible membership benefits that not only we can provide our members, but that we're able to continue using in our promotion to help advocate and like really highlight the value of CKI membership. As a result, our cuts primarily affect the international and district layers and less on the club layer. There remain CKI focused staff and support that will still be provided, but overall, we don't anticipate a major shift or a major change in the actual membership experience itself. Next, the second question we received from the Pennsylvania district specifically asks, what makes up CKI support? Is that the best description? Should it be broken out? In terms of CKI support, that's currently defined in multiple different ways. That includes things like the staff salaries, staff benefits, payroll taxes, and a substantial proportion of the Kiwanis International Management fee as well. In this case, we do label that as CKI support just because these are a lot of the different categories within Kiwanis International that ultimately end up contributing back to help facilitate our leadership within CKI. Then the next question, this was not submitted by or this was not identified with a particular district, but was a general question submitted asking, what makes up Circle K membership? Is that the best description? In terms of our budget, the Circle K membership line item currently accounts for things like trustee district visits, membership incentives, postage, shipping, background checks, credit card fees, copying and printing, Alma base, promotions, awards and recognition, as well as a separate portion of the Kiwanis International membership fee as well. So basically, this broad category of CKI membership is inclusive of a bunch of different components that are included both from the leadership perspective as well as the actual membership perspective as well. Next is a question from the Florida district, which asks, what is the projected budgeted membership for this service year? To answer that, our this year's budget was prepared based off of an estimated membership number of 7,000, while last year's budget was prepared based on 6,500. So as a result, this helps to show that like we are hoping and expecting from a budget perspective, a continued membership increase for this service year. Next, from the Florida district, why are staffing and GATSI budget lines staying about the same, but membership being significantly cut? What is specifically being cut from membership? In terms of this particular question, the savings that we see here are largely the move of the alumni staff out of the CKI budget. Cuts within the membership line itself aren't going to impact general members or incentives or anything like that, and are mainly related to things that are related to the alumni staff. Next is a question from the New York district. As districts will pay the cost for GATSI hotels, will International be helping to coordinate room pairings between governors to lower costs? In this case, yes, CKI in the past has always provided contracted hotels that provide a reduced group rate for both governors and administrators alike. CKI in this case to also help lower the expenditures from districts will also provide food at a lower cost for the group as well. And then in particular from my end and Neha's end, once we do have the full governor class elected, we will be sure to also do some type of spreadsheet or help with that facilitating roommate pairings between you guys to help connect districts that may be in search of additional roommates to lower your expenses in terms of hotel costs as well. Next is a question from the New Jersey district. Why is the income from SLP dues increasing this year? Is it due to membership growth? So, to answer this question, as previously mentioned, the membership goal that we included in our calculations for the budget has been increased from 6,500 to 7,000. And for our team, we thought that this was a reasonable number given the fact that we were able to see direct membership growth last year. And we're going to continue building on this momentum in part through your support and your hard work as well. Besides the direct membership numbers increase, we are also in the midst of our previously approved 848 membership increase as well. And because of the additional $4 dues increase for tier one countries, that also contributes to the increase in the expected income from SLP dues for this service year as well. Next is a question from the New Jersey district. Overall, with budget cuts, which programs will members notice most being less funded, and how can we prevent that? As of right now, things like membership incentives, swag, patches for early dues, icon scholarships, and all of those continue to remain in our current budget for general members. Since there is a significant staff reduction, we do appreciate everyone remaining patient with our organization, and in case we do have things like increased response times. As we're adjusting to this updated budget as well as our updated working style, we really, really appreciate your understanding as we basically get everything set up and find our new footing in this amongst these changes as well. At this time, support for the alumni network and alumni opportunities will likely see some limit as well, since that was one area of the budget that was also separately affected, as mentioned before. And then finally, the CKI board will not be as visible for membership since official CKI sponsored district convention visits have been eliminated. Then we have a question from the Q&A function, which specifically asks, what sorry, give me one second. What are the cost estimates associated with GATC? In this case, the estimated costs for GATC relate back to both attending district administrators and district governors. In this case, district administrators and district governors would be expected to cover travel costs both to and from Indianapolis, any associated hotel costs, as well as food costs during the event as well. The current hotel rate is estimated to be around $163 per night, including tax for a single. And then this is able to be split three ways for governors to reduce costs. Food last year was allocated out to be $100 per person, and this number isn't set just yet, but we do anticipate that it would be close to that number from last year, if not a little higher due to the ongoing inflation that we're experiencing. Lastly, as is the case for previous years, CKI would continue to shuttle participants to the office and from the hotel and back each and every day to make sure that you guys don't have to have any expenditures when it comes to things like Ubers or Lyfts or anything like that as well. Okay, so that's basically it for everything that we've received for questions, both pre-submitted as well as through the Q&A chat. I'll give everyone a few extra minutes in case you guys have any last-minute questions that you guys have in place. And as I'm giving you guys a final chance to submit any questions that you guys have, some points that I really, really want to reiterate as we're moving ahead with this call is the fact that, obviously, some of these changes are a little bit surprising. And I'm sure just like myself and Neha, when we first saw the budget, you guys are likely surprised as well as a little bit scared about what implications this may have on our general membership. I think on that note, I really, really, really want to emphasize, although these changes are, I'm not going to lie, some of these changes are a little bit disappointing to see. This still puts us in a better situation compared to some of the original proposals and some of the original risks that CKI was potentially facing amidst discussions by the Kiwanis International Board. As some of you guys may have heard, this included potential changes like elimination of the international layer, potentially reductions to our international convention, as well as reductions to other expenses as well. And in this case, this agreement or this specific directive from Kiwanis International was provided to us under the specific agreement that they would continue sponsoring our organization and continue providing the sponsorship fee as well. As a result, I think the biggest message that I really want all of you guys to take away from tonight's call is like, are some of these changes going to be difficult? Absolutely, without a doubt. But I want to reiterate and reemphasize the power for our organization and the power for us to forge our future still remains with us, the student leaders, as well as our advisors. Regardless of if it's on the club level, the district level, or the international level, we need to continue doing everything possible from our end to continue pushing for membership increases and continue building a sustainable and successful organization in the long run. The number one reason why some of these changes and why some of these proposals were even brought forth in the first place was because of questions regarding our sustainability. Now more than ever, we need to make sure that we remain united as an organization. Like I said, I know these changes are going to be difficult. I'd be lying if I sat here on this call and said that these changes aren't going to, in at least some part, affect the way that CKI operates. However, I want to maintain we need to remain motivated. We need to continue pushing hard. When I first ran for this role alongside my entire board, we came into this position knowing that we were going to face obstacles for this year. However, despite these obstacles, our team is determined to continue supporting our entire organization, one district, one club, and one member at a time. And we highly, highly encourage you guys to remain with us in this mission as well. And then I see a few extra questions. I see one that asks, can you elaborate more on the promo other section? So from what we can tell, this was specifically for items that we were potentially interested in creating for promotions. This could have included additional things like brochures or flyers or maybe social media ads. This wasn't a specifically defined area of the budget. It was more so just a little bit of money that we had set aside in case there were any specific promotional materials that we wanted to build upon for this year. Okay, let's see. Um, I see a comment here, not a question. I'd just like to say thank you for your hard work. I'm so glad that Gatsby is still safe and that the iBoard is still standing. I appreciate it and see your hard work. I think for this particular comment, thank you. I think that really, really means a lot to our team. I think from our end, like I can say, at least from my perspective and Neha's perspective, those were two things alongside stuff that we did feel were very, very, very important for us. First, because we do see inherent value in Gatsby. Gatsby is one of those experiences where governors are able to come together and not only be trained in their respective roles, but also really experience the value of international. In our opinion, like if we end up just doing some type of virtual event, like that's going to end up losing out. Like that's going to cause our governors to lose out on some of that special in-person connection that not only gives them a sense of community, but also provides them a bit of energy and motivation. If we look back on this year's class of district governors, as I've said at many points, we have 28 out of 29 district governor spots filled on the International Council right now, which is the best rate that we've seen in so many different years. And amidst that, we've also seen a really, really, really strong outpour of not only support, but also of action from this year's district governor class. And I know a lot of that came from their Gatsby experience as well. Even though I obviously was not there since I was a trustee at the time, based on the stories that I heard from both immediate past President Taylor DeSico as well as Vice President Madison Burt, as well as many of these district governors, Gatsby was really a time where they were able to work together and think about different things that they wanted to see out of our organization. And those ideas, not only have they been able to execute themselves, but a lot of those same ideas and those questions that they asked back then have also guided the way that my own team has led for this year to make sure that we're being impactful and intentional in everything that we do as a board. Okay. Then I see another question. Is there any cut to the communication team or rate of communication materials that will come out? If so, is there any way that the iBoard or committees can make media to approve for approval to ensure a consistent media presence? In this case, we do not have any changes in the amount allocated for the Kiwanis International Communications team, so we do not anticipate any changes to the frequency, quality, or amount of communication materials that are being published. Then let's see. Another question that we received is, since funding may be limited for districts to fund a Gatsby experience, will there be a virtual option available? Yes, similar to previous years, the expectation is that governors attend in person, but if there's any extenuating circumstances that limit a governor from doing so, a virtual option will continue to be offered to ensure that they're still able to be trained. Okay, and then let's see. And then I see a comment here. Hi, understanding that in person is much better for Gatsby, but some districts do not have the funding to send governor and DA. Can there be a Zoom option? It would be better than totally being left out. Thanks. Yes, I know this question was submitted right before I answered it, but yes, we will continue offering a Zoom option, whether it's because of financial limitations or because of extenuating circumstances. We are proud to continue offering a virtual option for those that may be more well suited for as well. Okay, then another question. How do we support district governors and administrators that may not be able to fund GATSI attendance? For this question, number one, I think is from our perspective, we're encouraging districts to, especially now that we know that these changes are finalized, I would encourage you guys to begin reaching out to your respective Kiwanis districts just to make them aware of this. Now is a really, really good time to start initiating those conversations and seeing if potential sponsorships or potential further support from Kiwanis in your respective districts is possible to make GATSI attendance a little bit more financially feasible. In the case that that's not an option, as I've mentioned before, we are going to continue allowing a Zoom option for those individuals just to make sure that those governors are able to still participate in GATSI and still start the year trained and energetic ahead of everything that they have planned for 2026 to 27. And then lastly, from my end, as well as Neha's end, as well as all the international trustees, we will also do individualized check-ins with those governors and administrators to see whether or not they have any additional questions. Obviously, we acknowledge the fact that a virtual GATSI does have some limitations, whether that be in terms of communication or in terms of the community that they're able to experience. And so from my end, we're going to make sure that our board is putting in overtime to ensure that those governors still feel included as a part of the rest of the governor class and also receive the resources necessary in order to have a successful year in service. Okay, and then I see a next question here. The next comment here, you mentioned that the I-board will be less visible due to no sponsored district visits by the organization. Oops, sorry, the question just popped away. Okay, I think this should push the I-board to ensure that they are more visible in a variety of promotion, media, newsletters, and office hours. Are there any plans for this? Yes, from my end, that is something that we've been pushing our board to do since the very beginning of the service year when we were initially elected. And this has been evident through things like our monthly membership socials, which we've hosted in collaboration with the Membership Development and Education International Committee. Additionally, from our end, although we may not be able to attend in person, sponsored through CKI, to ensure that we're still able to facilitate those relationships and facilitate that connection with our districts, the International Board will continue allowing districts to request either a virtual drop-in through Zoom or a pre-recorded video that can be played at district conventions. Last year, whenever I served as an international trustee, this was something that I had done for all of my districts, where I basically just stood in front of a camera, gave some general updates about our organization, as well as delivered a personalized note for each of my districts. And that's something that we're going to continue having both myself, Neha, as well as the trustees do, but at the request of district governors. On that note, I really want to emphasize, although we may not be able to do the CKI sponsored visits for district convention, that doesn't limit the way that we can remain engaged. One thing that I offer to all the district governors at the beginning of the service year is that my board wants to be as present, as engaged, and as involved with every single one of our districts as possible. This has been evident by us participating in district board meetings, participating in club meetings, and this is something that we're going to continue making ourselves accessible for. So, as a reminder, if there's ever any type of district event, club event, or any initiative where you want our support, whether it's in terms of just dropping in for a Zoom call, sending in a pre-recorded message, sending in some type of written message, we're always, always happy to do that. We want to make sure that our presence is able to be felt by our members and that we're seen not only as a board that's passionate about supporting CKI, but also as a board that's readily accessible. I think some great examples of this include different meetings that, like, for example, the Caribbean district has asked their trustee, Kelly, to hop on for. Or from my end, like, for example, tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be hopping on a call for a club and CNH who's asked for my help in basically speaking at a panel to talk about things like internships. All of these show how, even with particular limitations when it comes to district conventions, this doesn't limit the way that my board is able to help continue to support CKI as well. And we will always, always, always be here as a resource to support this organization. Okay, then I see an additional question here. In the future, with membership growth, would some of these items be reconsidered to be covered by international? Yes, I think this is a really, really, really important note that we want to highlight. The number one question that we've been getting is like, what do we do in this case? And I think now more than ever, we need to reiterate and reemphasize the fact that membership growth is our direct solution to this. All of these changes and all of these things that we see right now are tentative on our ability to hit our membership criteria, to hit the membership threshold that we've set forth for CKI. However, looking at the positive side, if we're able to surpass those numbers, I can tell you that from our end, we will definitely try to reinitiate that conversation with Kiwanis to see whether or not we're able to readjust some of those criteria. Because if we're able to prove that we're able to like very, very significantly increase membership numbers, that does pose room for continued growth and continued sustainability for our organization as well. Okay. With that, I think that's all of the questions that we have for now. Is there any final questions from anyone? I'll give it about 30 more seconds. And as I'm waiting, like, just to reiterate, I do really, really, really believe that the ultimate power to define our story as an organization lies with us. What we need to show now more than ever is our strength as an organization. The fact that we believe in CKI, and I really, really encourage you to do that by not only pursuing membership recruitment and retention in your clubs, but also facilitating relationships with Kiwanis as well. One of the biggest things is like, as a service leadership program of Kiwanis International, we should be putting in an effort to reach out to Kiwanis, whether it's on the club, district, or international level. Something that I've emphasized a lot in my messaging since the day that the official Kiwanis International announcement was released is the fact that I really believe that the relationship that exists between CKI and Kiwanis is symbiotic. When CKI succeeds, Kiwanis thrives. And when Kiwanis succeeds, CKI thrives as well. From a leadership aspect, Kiwanis is able to provide us a lot of that advising, a lot of that mentorship that can help turn CKI members into the future leaders of tomorrow. On the flip side, through strong relationships between CKI and Kiwanis, that provides a direct pipeline for Kiwanis membership as well, which really highlights the value and the importance of facilitating those connections as well as those relationships between our organizations as well. With that, I don't see any further questions in the chat. So for now, that will basically be everything that we have from our end. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I know that obviously this was something that a lot of people had been looking forward to as an opportunity for you guys to gain a little bit more information regarding our budget. And I hope that we've been able to answer a lot of these questions that you guys have put forth. As a reminder, the recording of this call, as well as the list of all the submitted questions and answers, will be made available in the near future as well. And the conversation regarding this doesn't need to stop here. If you guys do happen to have any additional questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself, to Neha, to your trustee, as well as staff, and we will do everything in our power to help explain some of these changes, as well as think of ways that we can work together to potentially work through some of these cuts. Like I said, although these changes may be difficult in some regards, I really, really believe in the power that CKI has together and when we unite together, and I hope you do too as well. With that, thank you so much for joining everyone, and we will see you at our next event. Bye, everyone.